Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the USFL Podcast. I'm half of the host, as always, the ref representing Pro Football Newsroom, the number one source in alternative football news. We got all of them. We got XFL, CFL, FCF, ELF, and the one, of course, that you're most interested in, USFL Newsroom. My man Zach trying to come in with the technical difficulties for our team, which it's funny because if you guys don't know, we just spent the last half hour working on my technical difficulties and hopefully the audio problems that you guys have experienced the last couple of weeks and dealt with without. I'm going to be honest. Sorry, I'm taking a lot of this before you get to introduce yourself. I'm amazed nobody's complained about it yet. So sorry, Zach. How are you doing today, my man?
I'm good. I'm trying to keep up with counting the leagues, and I bumped the mic anyway, so it's not like I'm helping any favors here with this start. Yeah, you taking the oxygen up for talking technical difficulties, whatever. I'm doing fine. I should say I'm fine. I said okay, but what we're going to talk about to kick things off makes me just knock myself down a peg for this show, which really shouldn't be, because I was wanting to come in here going, yeah,
this should have been our
this
day.
Is pretty exciting. And now it's like a mixed message of what the hell am I thinking? I'm just going to save my opinions so we can actually talk about the stuff we're going to be doing today.
Yeah, we're going to get into it, folks. We're going to get into it. I know a lot of people have said that we're, maybe a little shilly for the league, maybe a little rose-colored glasses. And, we're going to jump into it. We're not going to say what, but I know you guys know what we're going to talk about. But we got a lot to talk about. Before we get into the news, of course, we got to talk about social media. If it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't be here. So if you haven't already, if that button is red below the video and you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. And as always, click the bell. It builds morale to click the bell, and I know you need morale. After a day like Thursday, we all need a little bit of morale in our life, so click the bell to get some morale, and make sure you follow us over on social at USFL Newsroom, at USFL Podcast, and you can follow us personally at The Ref Says and at Zach Kyleman, as well as Grid Gallery Pod. Man, I'm getting kind of good at that. That was a nice wrap up. You did everything exactly as we needed. And now all you guys need to do is click that dang bell. You know what, though? Because I feel like this is going to be a long episode. Let's start it off with some good news. We're going to announce the replacement winner for the giveaway that Mystery Man decided to be a Mystery Man on. I'm sorry, Mystery Man. You had your chance. We gave you an extra week. But the good news is we're here to deliver. So Jenna Reagan, which, Zach, I don't know about you. She has been all over the spring football thing since the XFL, maybe even the AAF. And she is definitely a fan favorite of the content contributors. So I'm super happy to see somebody like that win. So Jenna, all you got to do, DM us over on Twitter at USFL Podcast. Redeem your prize. You get either a t-shirt or a hat from the USFL shop. So let us know. DM us. We're going to hook you up. And if you wouldn't mind taking a picture of it when you're done, because sign you up. We got to see. We want to see people repping that gear. But as a reminder, we also have another giveaway going on. We're getting dangerously close to the threshold. So what do you got to do? It's simple. All you got to do is subscribe, but you also need to join the Discord. Links down in the description.
Also down there.
Once we get to 250 subs, which I think we're less than 40 away right now.
Yes, we just crossed that threshold as we're recording today. So we're getting there. We're getting close. There. We're punching up.
I like it.
Punching upward.
Forward momentum is never a bad thing. But once we get to 250, if you're subscribed on YouTube as well as joined on the Discord, and it's important you join on the Discord because that's how you redeem the prize, you're going to win either a hat or a shirt from the USFL shop once we get to 250. So, Zach, we might have our lucky winner next week. We might be 2 for 2 weeks in a row. We tried to do it last time. But, it's been a confusing week. I think it's about time we pull the Band-Aid off. Starting out Thursday, media advisory went out for USFL head coaches were set to be announced. The final 4. An announcement goes out on Twitter, says an announcement about the final 4 head coaches will be made on the Herd. So, I was telling you in the pre-show, I had to do a double take. I said, oh, no, ref. Did you screw up an article? Because that's the worst thing that could happen. Is the worst thing that can happen. But looking at the media advisory, it clearly states all 4 head coaches will be named.
It does.
As it turned out, we waited 1 hour. We waited 2 hours. And on hour number 3 of the Herd, how many coaches did we get, Zach?
We got 2.
We
only got half of the deal. Why did we only get half? And it's been the big sticking point on social and on our Discord right now is everyone going, why did they do this? In at least some people's eyes, a bait and switch. Why is there no extra details as to why they're saying it's only 2? I mean, we even on the Herd, there wasn't really any reasoning that they didn't say. Of course, they said 2 in a crawl, or at least on the like the Chiron, as we're talking about on the bottom banner on there, and that's when people started getting tipped off, and then we got that confirmed that it was 2, even though they said 4 in the original PR release, and oh my God, a mess up.
It's definitely a blunder, and I mean, I think we shelve the what's and the whys for the speculation zone, because I think we got to pack speculation zone. I think what we do, let's jump into the who's. We'll jump into another topic, and then we're going to jump right into the speculation zone and give our thoughts on what we think may have happened. Again, none of this is confirmed what we're going to go, so that's why it's stuck in the speculation zone. Needless to say, stick around. It should be a fun speculation zone.
Yes, it should.
So, I mean, let's look at the positives. So, okay, we only got 2 more head coaches, but hey, that's 50% of the coaches that we still need to learn. Right.
Yeah. Okay. I bite. Sure. I see what you're doing.
It's a better than 0. When I woke up this morning, you know how many USFL head coaches I thought I was going to learn?
Well,
0.
They did say it was at 9 a.m. Eastern that they did kind of announce it. So it was strange. It was like a roller coaster, because like the 9 o'clock, you see that scroll across your timeline, especially if you have notifications on for the USFL, and you're going, what? Okay, I guess this is happening today. And you're like, all right, here we go. And, we're recording that day of right now. So, and then later on, that's when you get all the twists and turns. Sure, we could say that we weren't expecting anything. That's cool. So that's a positive. I guess if you want another positive, I'll continue that train before I dive down back into my anger and frustration. Because I promised people, I said, I'm going to throw, the gloves will come off on this topic just for how upsetting it is. The other positives, the 2 candidates, they aren't like these big flashy ones that people want, but they're high quality ones for the resumes. And I like them.
May I say, take a bow. You may have got the location wrong.
I know,
but you got Mr. Holtz there, which
I don't know how it happened. I didn't have an inside track to this. It's just deducing some of the people that are available on the market. It's just that he didn't end up on the team I thought he was going to go to, which I'm like, all right, maybe missed opportunity, but you know what? Dude's in the USFL and I nailed it somehow. I'll give a pat on the back. I'm not a guy to do that, but I'll do it once in a while. I'll take this win.
As you should.
Gladly.
As you should. And now we all expect you to predict the next 2.
Oh, hell. So the pressure's already on me. Damn.
So we got Skip Holtz. He's there in Birmingham, which we're going to touch on this in the speculation zone as well, because there's, again, looking at the reasons why we might see a delay, I would have thought maybe it's because they wanted to announce it in Birmingham.
Maybe.
But we got the Birmingham Stallions coach today, Skip Holtz, son of Lou Holtz, as you know, recently head coach of the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs from 2013 to 2021. I mean, this dude's got a long history. Again, looking at the positive, I love this pick. I when you brought it up last week, it was one of those guys that I didn't even think of. And the more I thought, I was like, man, he would be perfect for the league. And so seeing him come in, and hey, you know what? Maybe, Zach, maybe you gave him the idea. Who knows? Maybe those guys over at the USFL and Fox, they're listening. They're like, oh my God, Skip Holtz, him on the line, because that's not a bad idea. So maybe
Gerald Johnson's on the other side. It's like, he's not a bad guy. He's probably all right. Let's see what we got.
So, I mean, what are your overall thoughts on this pick for the Stallions?
Well, yeah. So I'll kind of rehash a few things with how I said it last week on just my prediction on this. Is, I like Skip because of the fact that he's recently let go. He had overall in his tenure with the Bulldogs, overall very successful. He actually is one of the few he has one of the best records for a single season in their school's history. 7 bowl appearances, at least in that case. And he also has a track record with other college programs too, outside of just LA Tech. He fits the bill. The USFL's already been angling itself to be this in-between college pro league. So why not take a guy that has all the college experience like this and give him something that maybe it is to him at least another step forward in terms of professional level? Because in theory, if we're organizing it, the USFL is supposed to be kind of that in-between league. It's not the NFL, but it's not exactly college. It's supposed to be kind of that transfer or that, step of getting right, or maybe making a stardom for yourself in there. So I think him taking that step too was kind of cool, and him being available just is perfect timing. So why not get someone that has that tenure and probably is still a little bit hungry to get back in? I like the call. And I also, the second guy, I like it because in this case, it's a guy that's been looking to get in for being the head honcho for an organization.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby Wilson, I don't think that was a name that was on many people's list of expectations or seeing somebody come in. But I mean, when you look at the experience that he has in the NFL, I mean, 23 years as a running back coach. I mean, we're talking the Patriots. We'll call them the football team, but the Redskins, the Buccaneers, Steelers, Vikings, Browns, Cardinals, Raiders. You have Raiders. Yep. I mean, that's a lot of teams. That's a lot of experience. And I mean, one of the cool things is when you have a lot of experience, at least as one of those secondary coaches, you're learning a lot also from the guys that are head coaches and the supporting cast around you. So, I mean, imagine being a player coming into that in-between zone, in between college, in between NFL, and learning from a guy that has worked with the number of people that he's worked with in the NFL. I mean, you would imagine he's got, like me, 2 sleeves that are both full of tricks, just looking at the amount of people and the time span in which he's worked there, right? So, I mean, This is a great fit. Wasn't necessarily on people's list or radar, but sign him up. I think this is a great pick for the USFL.
Yeah, he's been slowly climbing up the ladder. If you're looking at his coaching tenure, started out coaching at Pasadena Community College and really worked his way through the college ringer all the way up into just being consistently on the pro level ever since he made it with New England in 1997. So he's been either a running backs coach or sometimes a wide receivers coach. He actually he was in the community college scene with Los Angeles Southwest Community College. He was a quarterbacks coach for a time. So very much offensive minded. I'm assuming when you're finally into the NFL level, you start getting some ideas, you compile things that you like from your tenures. And he's kind of been through the ringer, like same spot really at RB coach since 2002 in the NFL. And he did take a year off last year. He was with the Raiders last stint, as we were talking about. But I think this is someone that, you see has been in the NFL for a time. He's seen the pro scene. Now it's someone that I think you can take as a gamble. Yeah, he's not as well known as a head coaching pick. Like, it's not like a Mike Riley or a Todd Haley like we saw in the last. But it's someone that I think is enough experience for so many years to where it's like, we can take this chance and get him in here and let him have a chance as well. He also has a connection with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hey, he's coaching the Maulers. So I don't know about you, but getting the local scene a little bit on board too, that connection can help a little bit. And I think that was another piece that adds to the puzzle. Let's put him with the Maulers. That Pittsburgh connection from part of his coaching tenure connects as well. And it just fits. I like it. And it's also like the workers mentality. The Maulers are trying to be that with like their name.
Right.
And the city itself that it's representing. So yeah, not flashy, but I like the experience backing him.
I mean, another solid pick. Again, looking at the coaches that we got so far, again, we didn't get what we were promised or even what we wanted, but we got 2 coaches that were solid picks. I mean, there's a lot of guys that they could have brought in. I mean, I always think it's mean to say things like this, but let's be honest. I hope he's not one of the last 2 if I say this, but if like Mark Trestman was announced.
God, no.
You know, everybody that was a Vipers fan or not a Vipers fan in the XFL would have been like, what are you doing? Now, please don't kill me if Mark Trestman is, I hope.
I don't want to see that man get another 10-year. And I'm a Bears fan that got to live through his own NFL days. Like, we've ran the course. Okay. He had some good years in the CFL. He won Grey Cups. We can move on. Please do not bring him back into another league. It's fine. I don't need to see him back in. I can live without him.
I don't think there's enough tight ends around to satisfy his needs. I mean, again, sorry to get off.
Or rotating quarterbacks.
Right. Well, again, sorry to get off topic here. Again, looking back at the XFL draft, one of the things that amazed me the most is the amount of tight ends that Mark Trestman picked and the fact that June Jones picked 0. Both of them CFL guys, right? They come in and they just said, I'm taking all of them and I'm taking none of them.
None of them.
So anyway, we're getting off topic here. All in all. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, that was a 2. I'm just saying. So there's your 2. Now I've been waiting to get here, and I'm finally into this portion that I have to be the guy, and I'm going to establish that, hey, we're not just going to be these, all sunshine and rainbows, USFL, everything's hunky dory. We look at your guys' talk about it. We know about the crunch. We know there's 85 days right now till the league starts, and we know that they're on thin ice when it comes to PR and social. This blunder with the press releases that happened for Colin Cowherd's The Herd with saying it's 4, then it's 2, and not really clarifying it unless it's one of us in the media where we have to go in, get some sort of pseudo clarification that doesn't really tell you much about why they did it. It's a joke. Mm-hmm. That is a joke. The alternative football, spring football, whatever you want to call it, it's already on thin ice with general audiences for just the fact that it exists, that even somewhat in their mind, in people's mindsets, challenges that. And any slight towards it, any little nick or bump that it comes along the way hurts it. This case, a press release like this, one that is basically fumbled because you could have paused this. You don't have to say anything in the morning. It was released 3 hours before the Herd. You could have waited till tonight, as we're recording on a Thursday, to drop it on Friday and then properly know who you're going to have. This was avoidable. And they made it so much worse with how they did it. Plus, they aren't really communicating as much, and they like to keep it close to the vest. So, of course, we don't know what the hell's going on if it messes up on a press release. This is stupid. This whole situation was completely avoidable. It was stupid. And I myself, if I was in the position of whoever is handling PR and gave the go-ahead, I'd be kicking that person's ass right now because that should not have happened at all. And that press release shouldn't have gone out unless you know damn well you are knowing when it's out that it is 100% without a fact, triple checking yourself that all 4 of those coaches are available and that you're going to do it. So don't half cock yourself and go in there blazing.
So I do want to say just a couple things to clarify, just so nobody out there rips our heads off. But rather than press release media advisory, point still stands. The ball was dropped. I only bring that up. Trust me, Zach, I've been on the internet a long time. I know when the pitchforks are coming. But either way, the fact of the matter is, like I said earlier, what I put out an article saying that the next 4 head coaches were going to be released. Then I saw the tweet. Then I think it was during the Herd that he on the Chiron, it mentioned that 2 were coming. We had reached out to some sources that we have close to the league. They said, look, around last minute decision change, we decided to only go for 2 today. But I mean, I did have to do a double take. I was very concerned that I wrote the wrong thing. And I mean, just as much as I was concerned about that, somebody is probably either not in a good mood at Fox or the USFL, or there's somebody in trouble. There is some break in communication down the line. We'll get into it in the speculation zone on why maybe. But ultimately, I think you hit the points. It's not a great look. When we look at, I mean, let's be real here. The last 2 guys to hit the spring football market, like really, was the AAF and the XFL. The XFL is coming back, but neither of them survived. Different reasons. We're not going to go into that. But you're already asking a lot for fans, everyday fans, not spring football fans, to buy in a third time.
And you have to put that distinction. Like, I'm glad you did that, because we have to stress, like, if you're watching this show, I mean, most of you probably are diehards, or you're at least curious about the league. There is an entire populace that if you say football, NFL is the only thing they recognize. Anything else, it's like, what the hell is this? So you are trying to do your best to show that you can win these people. You know, I mean, yeah, it ticks us off as diehards that we see this stuff. And we're like, what the hell is your problem? But like, for some people, they're like, oh, well, guess I can discredit this. You know,
right.
If you can't run it professionally, why does it even matter? That's what annoys me and gets me frustrated, the most, that it's a nick on them, because they could have avoided it and kept it flowing in the right direction.
Now, I do have, again, once we get to the speculation zone, I might have a positive spin on this. Again, some negative ones too. I got some positive ones, but here, I think it's just unfortunate. Like you said, it should have been avoidable. It's a situation that we're going to deal with. The benefit is, not benefit, but the reality is, if the league presents good football this fall, that can be forgiven. And I think they have the opportunities to do that.
That absolutely helps.
But if they have a couple more of these missteps in the way, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for people to get on board. People, I mean, even me running the silly website that we have, it only takes one typo for somebody never to come back to my site again. Right. And so knowing that, I can imagine something like this is amplified times 10, right? Mm-hmm. We are seeing, was Arden. I'm sorry, by the way, Arden on Twitter.
Yeah, that's for both of us, really. But absolutely.
He will be the first to tell you he's kind of on the fence, still supporting the league. I love to see that. But I mean, if you start losing those people on top of the people that you're trying to gain, that can become problematic. But again, it's nothing that good football can't fix. It's nothing that being solid from here on out can't absolve, right? People will forget little mistakes. You have to limit them. And I mean, quite honestly, we've seen the league hold things close to their vest, but I don't want, at least what I can remember, I can't think of any other time that they've made a mistake like this. Am I wrong?
It's not, I don't think they've made a PR release like this. I mean, they made small, at least design errors. I know they have the calendar, of course. Even with honestly, what added on today is as well, after they announced Wilson and Holtz, is some of the graphics. They had misspellings, like someone misspelled Birmingham on the Stallions when they had to re-release that, or one of the tweets had a little bit of an error, which it just compiles a bit. It's really their big oopsie, a goof, if you will. I call it. It wasn't pretty, and people are going to hold that standard, and also this gets piled on more because they're not really active on social. So anything that comes out gets magnified by 10, right, because they aren't all the time pumping things out. If you see a tweet from the USFL, right now it's got to be something big they're putting out there that they are going to be talking about at this point. It's an announcement,
right? So
you hang on that every word that much more if you like this league. And so it hurts that much more when they do stuff and they fumble it. No pun intended for the football, right, but they really did fumble the bag a little bit.
Yeah. So, there's good, there's bad. I think we jump into one quick topic before we jump into the speculation zone, because I think they kind of wrapping together, at least in a speculation kind of way.
That ties into a team we're talking about today, in a way.
There you go. So the latest on Birmingham. Last we talked, we knew, or it sounded like it was coming soon. We've seen the EVP of Business Operations, Edward Hartman. He shared an image, I believe it was last Friday, of a banner in Birmingham. Now, it didn't really say where. It didn't say what, specifically what it was for. But I will say, and I believe you talked about this with Tom Abraham when you joined his show on ESPN Radio. It is interesting that it is a banner for the Stallions and not for the league, considering that they're playing all 8 teams there. But I get your point. I get your point in the fact that, that's probably the best way to get people to turn their heads in Birmingham that might know the Stallions. Quite honestly, there might be more people that remember the Stallions that actually remember the USFL, strangely enough. So
yeah, it's a diehard fan base down there, and I'll repeat what I said on that is that, remember the end goal of this is to sell these as franchises over the course of the next 2.5-ish years. Well, I guess 3 or so. So why not advertise it right now? Because they're still owned by the league, but they're in Birmingham. So like right now, the big thing is, okay, now someone's got to buy it. So, maybe, and sure, you can argue that the league can handle them while they're in Birmingham right now, because they're going to be in there at least next year handling a few teams too. But that's my angle, is like, start advertising it right now. Right. Show that they're back. You want the local audience buying the tickets because they're the ones that are probably buying it for the hub. Mm-hmm. So they need to know that the Stallions are in town.
Right.
They're back in town, ready to play. That's why I like it as their banner rather than just the league's banner.
For sure. I'm just excited to see some more different advertising from the USFL. I mean,
yes,
it's another, well, I mean, it's confirmed the USFL is playing in Birmingham. I know that the league hasn't confirmed it, but I mean, even Pro Football Talk put out a flippant article today saying it's confirmed. We've all known this. There's, if there was at least like an Albuquerque, New Mexico, or somebody else that was like, hey, we had a talk with the USFL. I said, well, maybe there's a chance. It's going to be Birmingham. And I mean, so since this has come out, we've now seen that there's going to be some type of media event or press conference in Birmingham at Protective Stadium next Tuesday, which I think leads us right to where we want to be. Speculation zone.
Here we go, baby.
Here we go. So this is the speculation zone. This is where we could say things without getting chased with pitchforks and fire to a certain extent. So right. The Birmingham thing. Now, I'm just going to jump right into it. My initial thought, when we saw them cut out 2 coaches, I said, okay, I get it. You got a big announcement in Birmingham coming up next Tuesday. Makes a lot of sense to hold out on that Birmingham Stallions head coach. Well, that went down the drain when we got the head coach, and it was Skip Holtz. So, I mean, what happened? There's a few things that come to mind for me, and I'm sure there's probably people in the league that are going to cringe for me even saying this. It's got to be a contract thing, right? Like, it's got to be, right? Like, let me throw
feels like it.
Real quick, let me just throw out like double speculation zone. We saw things on people on Twitter mentioning Jeff Fisher was supposed to join the herd. And I mean, that feels like such a long stretch of like saying that you're going to go on the show and then not finalizing a contract and canceling your appearance. And then the reason for being 2, but was it?
Well, I'll even add on to that. If you want to talk about Jeff Fisher, I mean, looking at other leagues, so the European League of Football, one thing that came up so far during this season, it was rumored, because this is an opening that has been going on, is that the Barcelona Dragons for that league had been rumored to be talking with Jeff Fisher. So that in mind makes me think, okay, it's not impossible that the dude is looking at potentially a coaching opportunity. It was confirmed he was talking with the USFL anyway, in some regard. I mean, Todd Haley said on Extra Points podcast that, Jeff Fisher has had conversations with people, especially coaches in the league. So, I mean, it's weird. They don't do 2 coaches. They leave 2 of them off after saying 4. Fisher doesn't show up at 2:40 on the herd, because the herd is the only place that news drops anymore. I love how much of a joke it is that it's like, oh God, the herd, but news.
Right.
You have to like balance which switch. But seriously, how as much as that is a speculative thing, and that is the case, some of this is factual that he was supposed to be there. He was supposed to talk on the league. Why is he not on there today? And you could say, well, Jordan Plummer was supposed to be, took over his spot. It's like, okay, that's fine, but Fisher couldn't be on there. It's a Fox-owned property. Why didn't they just end the show like that? And this could change even tomorrow after the fact. Like maybe it was overscheduling, whatever. Right. It could happen.
And that's easy. It's probably that.
A lot of stuff feels like it lines up that way in this section. So I'm just like, oh, that sits out there and everyone's now having a big question mark over their head because Fisher is involved in some way with the USFL. We just haven't fully known what capacity yet. We know he's in there. We don't know what it is, though.
For sure.
That's the thing.
And I mean, it seems like, well, one, I love the intrigue. I love that it's not just an open question of why did the coaches get canceled. There's like that extra little cherry on top of, nah, it couldn't have been that, could it? Because, I mean, if it is, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like, if that, again, let's speculation zone. Just to remind people, we're in the speculation zone.
We are in the speculation zone, people.
How the hell, if Jeff Fisher was set to be named one of the head coaches, even as far as booking an appearance on the Herd, what happened? What happened? I don't know. I don't think even that was the case, but if it was, what happened in 6 hours, right? Like,
hard to say. They're going to have to explain it at some point. You know, this is going to come back because they've already let it out there that Fisher is involved and that he was supposed to talk on the league. So something is going to take place. But now with the whole coaching disruption, it just makes it that more like you're looking around going, what's happening right now? So his name's going to be one that I'm going to be searching like every day until he comes onto the show or makes a statement some other place. Because if it's not the Herd, we hear stuff from podcasts at this point. Right. Like it's like Mike Pereira, which we're talking a little later on, like making his tidbits known, or Todd Haley, like I just mentioned there. Like these guys go on and they're free to talk a little bit. So it's not like they're fully restricted. And the PR, as we said, isn't really giving everything away. But Fisher's coming up somehow. Someone's going to drop the beans on what he's doing with the league. We just need to hear sooner rather than later is what I'd like to see.
Now, what I hope didn't happen, because this will make me and probably a lot of people online feel bad. But what I hope didn't happen is that Fisher was supposed to be on the Herd, was supposed to be announced a coach, and had some like family emergency that he had to leave to. That would I get that? I mean, boom, that answers it. That to me forgives the whole situation. I do want to bring that up because, again, I don't know of any situation where that is the case, but I do want to, again, we're in speculation zone. There may be a perfectly good reason for all of this that wouldn't be sensitive, if you will, to release to the public. So again, it's not a good look. It's not a good look by any means. We beat that horse, whatever that is.
I can keep repeating how much I dislike and am annoyed / going on borderline angry that happened. But yeah, I mean, there's stuff surrounding it. Obviously, Fisher didn't show up. So, I mean, we'll find out in the next 24 hours if it was something else or they just go quiet again, because like the USFL's MO is they say something and they retreat back to Los Angeles and just kind of wait until something else comes up, is how it feels like it is.
Well, I'll say this.
Look, a little give.
I'll say this, and this, again, positive spin on a bad situation. Yeah. Okay. Everyone knows the ref knows how to do that best. They have a very small staff. I mean that's really the way to put it. From what I know, they have 6 people, 5 people, not counting the coaches. Like that we know about.
I mean, they're following a bare bones path, and their social, like it from what we've talked with some folks, is that it's not many, that are doing this, and when it has to happen, it's a quick throw together stuff like that is, and then they release out there. So it's still pretty bare bones.
Well,
but it's also they're in crunch, so they have to only do certain things and focus on the important stuff really quick first. So
for sure. Well, and even on the social piece, right? So I don't know if we've talked about this in the first 2 episodes, but I mean, it's worth talking about in the third one just in case. But at least to my understanding, all the marketing as far as like the printed materials, the graphics that you see online, as well as the social media, as of now, that's still being handled by Fox, right? So yeah, I mean, again, I get it. They're bare bones. That's why you're not seeing the team accounts post more. I assume that will change. Knock on wood. I assume that will change.
We'll get some players and assistants and coaches in, get into training camp. I mean, that's the idea. Like once training camp hits, in March, they better have some video content coming out on a regular basis. I know I want to see it. I know you want to see it. I know everyone wants to see that. Hell, people want to see the player selection, and most signs are pointing that that's not going to be televised.
Right.
And I know that that's down the line, but like there are things people want to look at.
Right.
Hopefully we start nudging enough to where you have Fox execs going, you know what, maybe we should get some cameras down there and like start talking a bit. The fact that we have, for example, as we bring up with the Birmingham thing, that's only going to be broadcast locally, or well, it is online. It's getting streamed via WVTM TV, NBC 13 in Birmingham, but that's the only source. So, like missed opportunity again, you know. Yes, the local news helps. But, oh man, that's where I wish you get some more investment sooner rather than later.
For sure. I agree. I mean, it seems like a simple thing. I know it's not as simple as we make it out as far as like setting up a proper live stream. I mean, using the draft as an example, looking back at the XFL, and funny, we're talking a lot about podcasts on this podcast, but Bruno Reagan, former guard for the Battlehawks, he was talking the other day about, you know, he's been clowning on the USFL a lot. Now he's talking about actually coming. He might actually join. He said he got the player application. He found out he had a connection over there that he didn't know about until this week. So he's filling it out. But one of the things that he mentioned was, you know, people were talking about the draft and if the USFL is going to draft, if they're going to air their draft. And he said, I hope they don't, because he joked that the XFL was not a great production. And I mean, it left a little to desire, but I don't think a lot of fans cared. They just wanted something. But going to the point you made earlier, those things do matter, because if it does look bush league, if you will, or like substandard, there's going to be a lot of people that look at that and say, oh, really? This is what you guys got going on? When reality, the games are going to be presented. Like if you look at the XFL draft compared to the XFL game presentation, night and day, right? So
absolutely,
I get it. I get why they wouldn't, and I don't think we're going to get it. Just to put my opinion. Again, we're still in the speculation zone, so I could say that.
Fair.
So let's switch. We talked about Birmingham. So we're at minimum, we're not getting the Birmingham Stallions coach reveal in Birmingham. Do you think we'll get the last two coaches in Birmingham? Will we deviate from the herd?
To me, it's a stretch now, because of the fact that your opportunity to do that was just missed when you announced it on the herd. So like, how awkward would that be? You go on like local Birmingham airwaves live and you say, by the way, we're announcing both the New Orleans and Michigan team in Birmingham, which I know some people already, like a good chunk of people already there are going, really, these teams have the city or state names? I'm like, okay, but if you were to do that like on a local television station and go, by the way, here's two new teams, like, if I'm living in Birmingham and I've been around, I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
Like that would have made more sense if you let Skip Holtz's announcement slide and had someone else in the fray to do it that way. That was the ideal. They missed it. I'm saying no. I don't see the logic of doing it. If they do, I'll be like, cool, but why? You know, like what was the point of this except just to throw it out there?
Right.
It would feel like I would rather just do a herd episode again to have it where it's nationally broadcast to people that they can go access it on a better production clip than a local news stream that, you know, maybe I hope will have good. It'll have good coverage. It sounds like it's a big event, but it won't be like nice, flashy looking like the herd does it with Fox production behind it. It just, to me, not enough pieces line up.
Right.
I can't make the puzzle here.
The only way I can see it happen is if all of the other coaches are there and they have all 8 coaches and they want to introduce them all, and then you get a double whammy.
It'd be intriguing.
But I mean, that seems like a lot. That seems like a lot for just one little event where if it was closer to training camp and the draft, yeah, probably. This far out, I mean, I don't. If it was the Birmingham coach, I'd say absolutely. But without them being there, I don't know. But I mean, that leaves us. I think we'll probably still get them next week. I think we don't know.
I think now that you announce for. I mean, I know that the phrasing of the release we've talked. Like, okay, you could phrase it one way and it looks that way, but if you're reading it on face value, it was supposed to be 4. So now you did 2. Now the pressure's on even farther, where it's going, okay, when we get in these 2 other ones, guys, like, let's get this done. And I've said this last episode, it has to me done to me this month. They hyped it so much they were going to get this done this month. And I've told people I'm setting my panic button if they don't have the other two done by February 1st. If February 1st rolls around and they don't have these two lined up, I'm smacking it and going, what the hell is going on? But they still have time. They should do it, I think, no later than next week. Do it, pick a day, make sure you're damn sure it's happening, so we don't have a second of it happen again, and then announce it and get it over with. Because people want, especially, you're talking about the fan bases. The Maulers got their coach. They are right now, surprisingly, the most represented team in all social. Between Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, they are one of the best when it comes to followers. The second best, the Michigan Panthers.
I was waiting for that.
People have been dying to see the coach for this team. Hell, our Den is a Michigan Panthers podcast.
That's honestly, you know what it is? Sorry. So, dude, that's why you didn't get the coach. They were tired of you sassing the league online. Maybe if you came with a little sweetness and honey, you'd attract a couple more bees, my friend.
We love you. We love you, man. This is definitely a hard time, but if you want to finish the speculation zone on that note, there's why. That's exactly why you didn't get him today.
So I think that was a fun speculation zone.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it was good.
Speaking of speculation zone, we have some speculation zone news coming in a couple weeks here, hopefully. So stay tuned for that. But I think we jump into some more news, positive news, good news.
Yes.
Yay!
Good.
We got the
punching upward.
We got the mean, horrible stuff out of the way. Everybody, now here's what we need to do. Now we get to the fun stuff.
I'm taking a breath because there was stuff we could talk about before the coaches anyway, and that was our deal until they dropped that in our laps this morning. So there's good things. I'm in Zen now. Let's go back to the good stuff.
So
let's hear it.
We got new hires. We got at least a new hire. Jim Popp.
We got a new hire. It's a good one.
Jim Popp, senior director of player administration. Dude's for the CFL fans out there, this is your dude. This dude's like a CFL legend. He's been there forever. And I mean, he's got experience with the NCAA, with Michigan State, which, I am a Wolverines fan, but if it's got Michigan in the name, I'm rooting for you a little bit. I know some people, here's the thing. People get on me about that because I like both Michigan and Michigan State, as long as they're not playing each other. And especially when they're playing my enemies. Of course I'm going to root for Michigan State against Ohio State, right? So, get over it, people. I'm putting that out there in case anybody gets some sass in the comments here. So, but I do appreciate seeing that Michigan State experience, North Carolina, Alabama State as well. But from CFL, dude, we're going old school here to the American invasion. We got the Baltimore Stallions.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an interesting one there, but we have the Alouettes, the Rough Riders, and the Argonauts, as well as some NFL Europe experience mixed in there as well. So, what's your initial take on this one?
So his position that he's doing is he's doing it as they're announcing the USFL Director of Player Administration. So they kind of explained it further. He's going to essentially be handling the player selection and more like scouting duties, which if you look at his background, he mainly fits into those departments, Director of Player Personnel, GM. This is right up his alley. And I think having someone focused on that was a good hire. He also has a good background. If we're talking about his resume, 5-time Grey Cup champion alone, CFL-wise. Mm-hmm. So not only are you evaluating good talent in Canadian, but you're also evaluating good talent that doesn't make, say, the NFL level. It's guys that are diamond in the rough. Hey, that fits the USFL bill we've been talking about. I like this option. If he's dealing with the draft, it's good. Also, another sign where I'm like, okay, this is probably a damn good hire by the USFL. If you're seeing like TSN personalities from CFL that are like, for example, Farhan Lalji was praising this hire when the news came out, and it wasn't even an official announcement. USFL didn't announce it directly. It was through Jim Popp's agent that was putting it out. He was praising it, or Lalji was praising it. And I'm going, okay, if people in the CFL community are hitting up on this hard, and the guy obviously has a good track record, yeah, this is a good hire. This fits right in his alley. His last stint that he had in any sort of capacity more professionally was with the Toronto Argonauts. His first year there in 2017, at least back there again, he won a Grey Cup championship as their GM. It ended on a sour note in 2019. The Argos were kind of on a lull back at the time before they took a year off. But the guy knows how to build up a roster. He's proven it many a times in the CFL itself. And it's guys that generally are those NFL people that slip through the cracks. I like it. For the position he's handling, this is perfect. Good hire on paper. And it was a positive. This was going to be the main thing we were going to talk about this week because it was a massive positive for the league. A nice step for their for at least their personnel department.
And for what I understand, I don't know. Maybe I'm out of line here. We may have some bonus content this weekend. Is that still a thing?
That is on. I am going to be doing that for this weekend. I will be interviewing TSN's very own Dave Naylor. He's the CFL's insider. We're going to be talking about Jim Popp. I want to get a little bit of the lowdown, kind of his legacy in the CFL, and what his thoughts, at least maybe for his perspective and kind of voice of the community's thoughts are with this hire, and maybe even just the USFL in relation to the CFL, because again, it fits in that vein of leagues that are kind of competing for that like spring summer scene anyway. So I know there's two different countries that are competing, but there are American audiences that watch the CFL, and it's definitely a piece of it that you can tell. So we're going to be talking a lot about that, and just like I said, Jim Popp, how this puzzle fits, and why he makes a good fit, or why not. We'll see what Dave thinks, but for the most part, it sounds like he does. Should be a good time. I've talked with Dave in the past on Gridiron Gallery. He's a great conversationalist, so I'm going to have a good time with him coming up here.
Yeah, so definitely, guys, make sure you tune in. This will be on the USFL Podcast YouTube. I'll probably put it on the audio podcast as well. I don't see why not. So that should be coming sometime this weekend. I don't know. I got to figure that out. Saturday or Sunday, one of those days. Papa needs a break, so... I know you're doing you're doing all the heavy lifting. You're doing the interview.
Who are you kidding? You do plenty of stuff here, man. You're getting things out all the time. Don't knock yourself down a peg. It's going to be a good one though. We'll get it out there. But I mean, if you haven't listened to Dave before, Dave's a great talking point person. And like I said, dude's seen it all. He's been ingrained with the CFL pretty much his entire life. So you won't want to miss it. Great TSN personality.
Should be must watch YouTube /listening on podcast TV /radio, however that works.
Oh yeah.
All right. Now, once I start rambling like that, it's time for a new topic. So again, good news, fun news. We knew that NBC had signed a deal with the USFL. That came out, I think, last month officially. We first heard about it in October when they started working with the representatives in Birmingham. Now it's official with the NFL playoffs here. People were hoping, would we see any promos from the USFL on NBC? I mean, quite honestly, it's been over a month now that Fox has been airing USFL promos every game, every NFL game that Fox airs, they're airing a promo. So going into this playoffs, especially because we had two new promos last week for the final week of the NFL regular season.
Yeah,
the speculation started. Would we get some promos? Sort of. I mean, sort of.
A little bit.
Kind of.
A little bit.
I mean, shout out to Seth Lessons again. Our spring football community, are they not the best? Dude, I mean, the eagle eyes
so
out
many good
there.
People.
This dude's watching soccer, and boom, there it is, right in the lower right of the screen. USFL coming April 2022. Wasn't a big old thing. It was just on the bottom on the chyron, lower right. Now, again, that was prior to when the NFL playoffs took place. Later in the afternoon, though, when they had the pregame, it was still there. So, not a huge promo, but a promo nonetheless. Thoughts?
It's visible. That's a start. And you have to go somewhere. So I think it did sneak up on some people. It's not massive. I'm not gonna go overboard with it and be like, oh my God, this because it's not a promo. And it's not showing off like what NBC is wanting to do with the theming of the USFL in its own right. But you can tell they are going to put a focus at least on trying to promote it in some way. And it makes me think there's got to be something coming out now. If it, like we were speculating last week in the speculation zone-ish area about it, when it would come out. Now I'm more leaning on like, well, if they got it on the chyron and it's playoff season in the NFL, again, they host the Super Bowl this year. I mean, it's even, to me, it's seeming like the steps are there that they will have a produced piece maybe this weekend, if not at least by Super Bowl Sunday in early-ish February when that goes on. I mean, they're starting to advertise it now. That chyron does stay up, and it's a visual piece on your display. So you are recognizing it if you are watching that broadcast, especially the pregame that was going to be for the Bengals and Raiders, or Raiders Bengals, getting the right home set. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Now, one thing that is interesting though, it did disappear during halftime. It was in both of the pregames, but it wasn't in either of the halftimes, which strange.
A test? Question mark?
Right. Now, that being said, whatever. I'm just glad to see something. I'm sticking with bare minimum. We're seeing at minimum a mention of the USFL, probably at bare minimum a 10-second spot. But I mean, it feels like that's the time to drop the 30-second one. But that's expensive, and I get why you wouldn't. But I would settle for a couple things. One, 10-second promo like we got on, like we're getting on Fox. And similar to the AAF, I believe they added them to the chyron and verbally brought them up during the broadcast and said, by the way, the AAF is kicking off. If they do those two things, I'll be fine without a 30-second promo. I think the online community would love to see a 30-second promo. I get why we wouldn't see it in the Super Bowl because, I mean, that's a lot of money that NBC, quite honestly, is leaving on the table by just promoting one of their own products.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're not like NBC alone, they get the Super Bowl that is, Fox, we're still going to be sitting here too. They host the NFC Championship game, which is also one of the most watched events of the year when it goes on. And that's a chance for them to launch maybe even a potential 30-second drop if they wanted there as well. So we have to wait and see if they'll add more production to that or just new 10-second ones, which have been doing decent amount of coverage and bounce, if you will, on exposure when they drop them on social. So, I mean, if it works, fine, go with that. But I mean, you want to see something that like maybe it's a narration, like a little explanation of like, hey, it's an old, like, I know some people will get on me for this, like, it's not the same thing, but it's like they are leaning nostalgia in a way. So it's like, it's an old favorite coming back. Like I could see something like that coming up. You'll have people that are some of the OGs losing their minds, but being frank, they'd do it.
Yeah.
There's enough goodwill where people are like, yes, my favorite league's back. Right. Like that's what I'd be seeing happen there,
I don't see Fox going that route though. It really feels because I mean, if you look at every one of their press releases that they put out, they always specify that this is not the same USFL from the 80s. That's
true.
And so, although I agree with you, give us one of like a throwback. Maybe we'll get that when the games kick off. I don't know, but I could easily see them not. They definitely, it seems like they want to conveniently distance themselves from the past while keeping the positives.
Yeah. Well, can we get more Doug Flutie?
Right.
I mean, I think it's reasonable to say that Flutie's going to be on those broadcasts anyway. He already does Notre Dame games for NBC. So, can we get more Doug Flutie?
And maybe NBC, maybe they'll be the ones to play that card and not Fox specifically. So
maybe you're right.
Maybe that's the play.
That contract and all that, he's already there.
I like it. So again, we're a little bit outside the speculation zone for this, but I think we're in safe distance. But
we have just enough of a hook back in reality.
Yeah. So. Promos on NBC, things are looking good. Things are looking on the up and up. We hopefully have some things to look forward to as we get closer to the Super Bowl. I mean, real quick, predictions. I mean, I know we talk about the USFL, but we dabble. Who do you think we're going to get in there?
Why not? It's still football.
Yeah, right.
I'll give you that. And we're going to be watching the Super Bowl and hoping for what we assume is NBC doing its promo thing that we hope we get. I don't know. Right now, if I'm doing that, I'll do it real quick. I'm going to say, based on my assumptions, it's going to be Buffalo taking on Green Bay. And I'll take the Packers. I think I don't like Green Bay. I mean, you and I were both similar division favorites in NFL terms, Bears and Lions fans here. And yeah, I hate that a lot. I don't want to see that outcome. But there's something like for some reason this Packers team feels a little different this time. I get this feeling that no matter if it's the Bucs or the Rams that they're going to play, they're going to pull it off this time and get all the way back there. And I think that Buffalo will get KC upset and they'll be able to get past, in my opinion, Tennessee and you'll see the Bills in there. And unfortunately, they'll have then the most losses in Super Bowl history. But yeah, that's mine. I've said too much. Too much Green Bay for me and my
Bills
tastes.
And the Packers. I mean, I could see that happening. Honestly, it's funny. I asked a question that I didn't even have a thought on. I'm looking at the teams now.
What? Come on, man. What are you doing?
So I'm going to give you my take on this week coming up real quick. So Rams and Bucks, I don't think Matty Stafford can do it. I think Papa Brady's going to shut him down. So I think we get the Rams in there. And then who would they go against? They would go against what? The Titans or the Bengals?
So you're saying the Bucks then, or you mean the Rams?
Bucks.
Okay, so the Bucks.
The Bucks.
So
I think the Bucks make the the Super Bowl again. But now I'm trying to figure out who they would play against. I'm trying to look at
it's either San Fran or Green Bay. And as much as I like scrappiness of San Fran, I pick Green Bay just because it's too much overwhelming on all sides.
Yeah, you're right. It's got to be the Packers. It's got to be. And I hate the FTP, if you know what that means out there. FTP.
We'll leave that alone.
So either way, I sadly agree with you. I think the Packers are going to make it to the Super Bowl. If anything, here's the thing. This is Aaron Rodgers' year. Aaron Rodgers has been walking around very arrogantly, knowing that he's going to make the Super Bowl this year. You can almost feel it in the offseason when he said, I just won't come back. And when you have that attitude, sometimes those are the guys that just come in and win everything just to show you, aren't you glad I came back? Well, you're going to really miss me now, aren't you? Pay up or I'm leaving. Or he retires. Because I could see this too. I could see Aaron Rodgers winning the Super Bowl and just doing the shock moment of retiring.
He could. I mean, he's got enough dough stored away. He's got enough star personality. So why not? So you and I are agreeing Packers then?
I think so. Well, I think the Bucks. Yeah. I think the Bucks win the Super Bowl though.
Oh, I see.
I could see the Packers winning.
Still for me.
I don't know. This is funny. I know way more about like alternative football than I do the NFL. I swear to God. I'm a Lions fan. I mean, my heart is broken by like 3 games into the season for the last 38 years of my life. So can you forgive me?
I can't fully relate. I mean, Chicago is more like just one peg above, but not much of one peg, maybe like half. Still a lot of, besides 06, still a lot of sadness and missed opportunities. So yeah, I've also gotten lost like you in this scene in recent years because, A, my team's terrible, but B, just the possibilities you can have with experimentation and options with players you can find. Like leagues like the USFL, the XFL before it, even the AAF without just remove the financial garbage in it. And I was happy to see the play that was on the field. So, and a lot of focus goes to that.
For sure. And like me personally, right? Like I joked about Michigan and Michigan State earlier, but like I could never just switch allegiances because I moved cities. Like I couldn't be a Lions fan and say, I live in Houston now. I'm a Texans fan. Like I've tried. Like when I moved to Arizona, I said, okay, let's get in on the Cardinals. They went to the Super Bowl that year. I was on board, right? I was saying, I moved to a new state. We're doing well. But it never felt right. I'm still a Lions fan. So the great thing about like spring football leagues or just different leagues in general, it's easier for me to adopt a new team to where I don't have that like weird stigma of, oh boy, I'm cheating on the Lions. Because here's the thing. If you do that, like as a Lions fan, if they finally just get to the Super Bowl or win it, it's going to be that much sweeter that I stuck with them than hopped around to teams. Now, Ford family, come on, just all I'll say. So
now, I calm the frustrations. I understand. But.
So this actually leads into our next topic. Well, because I've always said the Lions' worst enemy and biggest opponent has been officiants and officials in the NFL. So we have Mike Pereira. He joined the Greenlight podcast to talk about some officiating rules in the USFL. And again, shout out to @NewsUSFL on Twitter. If you're not following them, sign me up. I think most people just assume that everybody in the community hates each other, but the USFL community has been pretty cool so far. I want to see them grow. So there's no hate from our side. Make sure you give everybody a follow from our den, USFL News, USFL. This is the USFL. There's so many to name off, so I don't want to keep going because people get mad that I didn't list them off. But shout out to him for bringing this up because honestly, I may never run into this,
Well, and I listened to that section because they talked to Pereira a while. Like it's the longest portion of this show. And you have to catch it right at the end. He only talks for like maybe 3 to 5 minutes on the pieces of this that he brings up, but it's a good snag for what is up there. Like all this stuff is information, but he only like quickly grazes over it. Like these are things we're talking about and doing. I'm like, okay, glad you dropped that in all of a sudden on this.
It's similar to Daryl Johnston joining the Herd last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, where like right at the end he said, "Yeah, I'm out here doing some scouting for the USFL."
Oh yeah,
right at the end.
I remember us talking about that.
So it's similar to that, right? I mean, these guys have a lot to talk about, but we are still getting these nuggets. Again, we saw it from Todd Haley, we saw it from Johnston. Now we're seeing it from Mike Pereira. But we learned a couple things. I mean, more or less, a lot of it I think is probably expected. But Mike Pereira, essentially, he's going to be the rules committee. That's what it sounds like to me. It's going to be what he says, a rules committee of almost one. It's going to be him and probably a few guys. Now, the interesting thing, and this is definitely pulled out of what we saw in the spring league, 32 of the 35, not 356 if you're looking at my notes, of the officials will be in the NFL developmental list, what they call the next ground up. So this is what we saw in the spring league. I'm fairly certain it's the same group. I know there were some developmental group for the NFL. I mean, there was definitely pros. There was a few missed calls, like blatant missed calls that time around. But I will say this, again, putting a positive spin on it. I always thought it was fun to watch. I always kind of thought it was fun to watch the official kind of trying to figure out, well, if it's this, and more importantly, the thing that I loved, and maybe this will be Mike Pereira's place in this, because this could be flipping cool. But when we saw in the spring league, they always had a head official that they would put on the headphones and you could listen to them and say, well, Mike, if this happened, it would result in this, this, and this. But what it looks like is maybe the elbow touched here, but this happened, which results in this, this, and this. Now it's your call to make the final play. Now, I loved that in the spring league. I mean, some people will probably scoff at the developmental league for the officials. I think it's cool, but especially so if we get that inside look. The inside look is kind of what makes these spring leagues a little bit special. They're willing to go beyond the borders of what you normally see.
Access.
Right.
People like to see the stuff that they maybe don't always get a chance to be around or get exposed to. Hell, that's one of the biggest driving forces with the new XFL. If we're talking alternative football right now, they're talking that they're going to crank up the access from 2.0 to like 11 from how they've discussed it. So yeah, everyone likes access. I like how they're talking that it's really Pereira. You think about how the setup's going to be. He said actually on Green Light that he's going to kind of play a similar role he does with NFL games where he'll pop in, he'll give his takes on this as well, but he's also going to be really running the rule. He's going to be running the officiating. So you're getting it from the main man on top, explain to you, this is how we're doing this. This is why this is happening. So it's easy. It's assumable that you maybe get to see his process when talking to the officials if it's a replay, because he's going to be right there at the command center. Like he will be doing the command center directly. He talked in the show that he likes it because it's turning back the clock a little to him because he used to have that role somewhat with the NFL. And so he gets to do that again with a whole new property and get to reinvent some things that he dislikes about the NFL rule book or adjust and do tweaks that he feels should be implemented.
I mean, this is one thing that I think fans have been clamoring for is the rule set. It's maybe not as verbally spoken online as some of the big things like the coaches and this and that. But I mean, just looking at my inbox, I get questions about it every week, at least a couple. Hey, are the rules out? When are the rules coming? When are we going to see them? This kind of this and that. So there's going to be a lot of focus on this, and I can't wait to see it. I expect a lot of similarities to, again, the spring league, which I think was fine. One right here, I think this one was the same. So roughing the passer, hit on defenseless receiver will be reviewable. I think that was in the spring league, which, I mean, my take, I can't be mad at that. I mean, keep these guys safe. I mean, again, we talked about it. Mike, what the heck is his name? The guy that got his creamed in that initial AAF game, Bercovici. I mean, I look at that and I'm like, oh no. And then there was even a play, I think in the spring league last year, where there was a guy that I can't remember who it was, but he got his bell rung. He got his bell rung out there. So, I mean, as much to keep these guys accountable, I'm not going to be angry at that. Now, I don't want to become the circus that is the NFL though. I don't want to see flags left and right. So there's got to be a little bit of wiggle room there. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
So something he talks about in this is his interest and his involvement with replay technology. The officiating in the NFL specifically, he's talking about, it's leaned more and more on not just like rule book based judgments or rulings on, say, plays. It's leaning on judgment calls. That's a lot of review. Now, I know this one, it's kind of hypocritical. Well, if he doesn't like as much for the judgment, why are they doing it with this? Well, you can still put textbook on what is roughing the passer, and follow that. Or what is a hit to a defenseless receiver. Hell, hit to the defenseless receiver, that one's pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. If it's lean with a crown, if it's way after the fact on a hit, he talked about this where he wants to try and say, hey, if you had a textbook shoulder hit and you got thrown for a reactionary flag, we want to get rid of that reactionary flag. That was the point of the defenseless receiver. The roughing the passer one, it does help with the safety, but I also see the benefit, and I especially like this benefit, it gives power back to the defense.
Right.
Because if you're looking at the NFL, and again, I reference this because they've said they're bringing an NFL rulebook in with tweaks, is how they said it initially. The NFL has gotten more and more protective of the quarterback, understandable. However, it's almost gotten to an extreme level where roughing the passer can be as simple, and I hate this rule, by the way, it's as simple as if you tap a person's helmet. Yeah. If your hand even touches a person's helmet, I'm slapping you 15 yards. And I completely disagree. There has to be a specific case. If you are pushing someone egregiously way after a play, yeah, sure, that's a roughing. If you slam someone, that's a roughing. If you have direct crown to the head helmet hit, that's a roughing. Tapping someone on the head, come on.
I completely agree with that because there's so many plays in the NFL. Again, as a Lions fan, I've seen them all.
It's changed games, Stefan. Yeah. That's the thing that's killed me. We're talking, just think about the Chiefs. They could have gone to the Super Bowl a year early if at least that roughing the passer call isn't called on an intercept. Isn't called during the drive after the interception with D Ford offsides, of course. But I digress. Right. That alone would have changed the course of that contest, and the Chiefs could have been possibly walking away with 2 Super Bowls by now.
For sure.
That's the type of stuff they're trying to talk about and prevent. That rule's great. I love that choice. The other one I like that he mentioned, I like both of them. I actually am a fan of. And this one even more is a bit of a more judgment call-y than the other, surprisingly, is they're going to the college style of pass interference calls. Like 15 yards is the base, no matter how far down the field you are. Mm-hmm. I thought that was kind of cool. And he says in Greenlight, he's kind of been not a proponent of the 40 yards like plus type of plays where it's a throw up type of pass and all of a sudden the field flips. Right. He likes the college rule because it's not as penalizing to the defense. Yes, you have a bad play, but it still forces the offense to still think strategically. You get the 15 yards, but that's not going to flip your game with a snap of a finger.
For sure. And I mean, you see that in the NFL. There's teams that take advantage of that all the time where they know they got a touchy guy out there. Let's just bomb it out there. We might be able to draw a penalty and be 40 yards closer.
Turned around.
Yeah, exactly. So I love to see that. I mean, all in all, again, we had some rocky things to talk about at the beginning, but overall, a lot of things that we're seeing here, going from the 2 coaches to the hires to even these officiating rules, everything's looking good. There's some things that need to be worked on. We know that. I mean, that's expected with the bare bones, but quite honestly, Mike Pereira coming in as head of officiating shows me that at minimum Fox is taking this serious. It's a household name when it comes to football. I don't know, like my mom might not know who he is, but my dad would, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, that's going to help in itself. And then also just having all that experience, like you mentioned, this is kind of something he's done in the past. It's a little bit of a throwback for him. the dude knows how to put together something like this. And I hope we get, like you said, that NFL rules, nothing too gimmicky, but a little bit of a twist, right? Like, I don't know. The kickoff is a perfect example of like,
we're still waiting on that too.
Right.
That's the other one that, and funny enough, on my appearance with Tom Abraham, that was one thing he brought. I was like, are we hearing about the kickoff? I'm like, not yet. But again, they're close to the vest. They haven't really revealed all the rules. You just got to wait for the nuggets to drop from people that let it go. And I'll even add on this point too, on the same appearance. I do put a cautionary, as much as I do love the reviews, cautionary, because again, yeah, there's textbook, but the flip side I got to address, where if it becomes a judgment play and you see certain call not go away and another refereeing crew's deduction of the said rule, that's a can of worms you're going to be opening up. So the hope is that with Pereira's instance, where he is a guy that says, I follow the rule book. If the rule book says it this way, we have to call it this way. There shouldn't be as little judgment as possible. That's the hope. Mm-hmm. So just got to bring that in, because that is a point. Like this rule, if it's executed correctly, like especially the roughing the passer one or the defenseless receiver, they're good options. But you have to have the crews that know how to consistently call it across the board, where they're all in the same mindset. You can't have too much variation in what a person's depiction of a rule is in this case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all in all, things are looking on the up and up. There's a couple things that we got to work on. Not we, but the league. But I think those will get tightened up as we start getting some more of those hires working directly for the USFL. At least we can hope. But like I said, the fact of the matter is a lot of the things that we're seeing coming out of them are top notch. Like, again, like everything you just mentioned with Mike Pereira coming in and all that, like this is a perfect look for the league. And again, looking back at the 3-year plan, I mean, at minimum, it seems like we're at least going to get season 2, hopefully season 3. And by then, hopefully we have the owners of these teams or see what the full plan is. Because, I mean, when we look at the things that we don't know, we know that there's a 3-year plan, but we don't know what it looks like. We know sort of, kind of.
There's still a lot on the
right.
Yeah, there's still a lot on that needs to be put on the table. 85 days. We're hoping to hear that. We should. I mean, they're getting coaches. Just need 2 more. Sadly, we have to say that, but we just need 2 more.
2 more.
Now, give me more details. Come on.
2 more to go. We're gonna get there. Hopefully, we'll get there next week. But I mean, dude, this was a banger, big old episode. What a roller! I mean, this is only episode 3. We've had some highs, we've had some lows now.
I know,
but here we are. I mean, 3 episodes in.
January's been insane. Still, like these episodes have been packed just from what they promised. So,
and the clips, if you guys, I mean, it seems like you guys have figured it out. We drop clips Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday. I apologize. So Monday through Thursday, clips drop. Friday, the full episode drops again this weekend. Bonus clip interview with Dave Naylor and my man Zach from the Gridiron Gallery, co-host of the USFL podcast. So make sure you're tuned in there. The easiest way to find out, of course. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell. That's going to let you know, because Google is Google. My friend Google. I love Susan, whatever her name is. You're my best friend. I don't think anything poorly of you. But sometimes they don't send out the notifications. One thing that you can do to ensure that more times than not is the bell. Times. And plus it builds morale. So anyway, sign you up there. Also, make sure you hit us up over on Twitter, Facebook at USFL Podcast. You can find us on a whole bunch of other platforms too, but we're mainly posted on Twitter and Facebook, and mainly Twitter. But you can also follow us individually as well at The Ref Says and Grid Gallery Pod, as well as at Zach Kyleman over on Twitter. And I mean, we talk all sorts of things there, so you never know what you're going to find. Zach, how was this week for you? This is a big one.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think really just before coming on here, like kind of compiling thoughts. Overall, I will say positive overall does go net positive, or at least that sounded dumb. Net results are positive. That's a better clarification. Right. I had word vomit there. I'll admit it. Still, like I said, you have to address the elephant in the room when you do it. That's why we want to do it that way. But you look at the rest of the stuff. They did get the coaches. They are quality. These to me are quality hires. You have Jim Pop coming in there, great guy for the draft personnel and scouting out players. You're hearing stuff about rules. You're getting tidbits more and more often. This is what we wanted overall. Yes, there's a lot of stuff we still need. I sympathize with those people out there that really want this stuff, because I want to, and so do you. But it is going to happen. They are doing things. It's just that some of the stuff is unorthodox, unfortunately, because they are being unorthodox about how they're launching the league.
Sometimes great things take time, and there's no explanation other than that, maybe. I don't know, right?
I end again. Net positive, but trust me, still have my frustrations on the things that did irk me. And I will hold that steadfast as we go forward.
I mean, and this is why you guys got to keep tuning in, because, 3 weeks from now, we might have bags under our eyes, missing our hair, and saying, why do we start this podcast? I don't know.
I hope to God I'm not bald by then. Jesus, please do not curse me with that.
Funny story. I just learned this the other day. So I always wear a hat when I work. I just wear a hat always. I don't care if don't wear a hat. I'm going to wear a hat. Get over it. And I joined a video call the other day without my hat, which is like an almost never thing. And everybody thought I was bald. Everybody's like, oh my God, look how much hair you have. And I was like, that seems really weird. I don't even have that much hair. And they're like, and then next time I just assumed you were bald. And I was like, oh my God, I guess that makes sense, because I do know a lot of people that have male pattern baldness, don't wear hairs. But trust me, I have a full, luscious head of hair. That's probably why I wear the hat. It gets all over the hair place. It won't stop growing is why I wear the hat.
Reveal video?
Yeah, here we go. It's not even that crazy right now. Look, it's actually pretty well kept. It's there we go.
Slick back.
Oh, I should probably put on these. There we go. I'll do the madman here. Actually, I look like a loser like this. Hold on. It didn't look like this in my work call. I look like somebody out of the 90s with this, what was it, the split down the thing. I don't know. Right. Oh, I'm screwing it all now, but I can't do it. Whatever. So you got a hair reveal, guys. It's been a long night. I haven't even started drinking yet. That's how we know it's a bad day. It's not a bad day. It's a good day. It's a great day. It's the best day ever. Whatever. So I think
might as well end here with get that last reminder out for a giveaway.
Yes,
because we don't. Again, we want to give this first giveaway before we do the second. Like, we were supposed to have already done this by now. So please,
Jenna Reagan, DM us on Twitter. We have faith in you. We hope you're watching. We put it at the beginning and we put it at the end. Don't make us ask a third person, please. But
that would be
either way, regardless, we do have a second giveaway going on. Very simple. Hit the subscribe button on Twitter. Hit the join button on Discord. Links are down in the description. Once we get to 250 subs over here on YouTube, again, one lucky winner, you're going to win a t-shirt or a hat of your choice from the USFL shop. So who can't get signed up on that? It's a win-win. Win-win for everybody. But I think that's it, man. I think any last words, I guess, before we wrap this bad boy up?
For those that had questions, don't worry. We are going to get to those next show. It was just a very big episode. There's some good ones. You guys have submitted a lot of stuff with our clips and podcast episodes and via Twitter. Keep doing that. We like hearing feedback. We want to hear from you guys. It gives us a perspective on the community specifically, because again, you guys and us, we're the fans. We analyze the league too, and we're trying to get all sides of the equation. Keep sending that in. We promise next week we will get to some questions. It was a big episode.
Yes,
we couldn't get there in time.
Speculation Zone was just a beast this week. But yes, send in the questions. And again, we still haven't had anybody yet, but I know you guys might be a little shy. You can go over to USFLcast.com and send us a voicemail as well. Just flip a little bit down the screen. There's a little button there. You click record, send it to us, shoots right to our inbox. And assuming there's no swearing and it's appropriate, we will play it on the show.
Got to get that. You and I got to make that instructional video here this week. But seriously, that is, I've checked it out already. Pretty good tool.
Yeah.
Really good website tool. You did a great job with that.
Sign us up.
I haven't been able to tell you that yet.
Good
one.
That's what I like to hear, guys. Well, I guess that's it. It's been a big show. It's been a great show. We hope you guys tune in next week. Again, Fridays every week at 9 a.m. Eastern. I think that's when we do it. Something like that. But if you hit the bell, you'll know for sure. But again, Monday through Thursday, there's clips as well. So until next time, sign you guys up.